All right, folks, so the spring market of 2026 is knocking on the door, and yet something is not adding up. Well, most people believe that the buyers are lining up or preparing themselves to purchase all these properties in spring of 2026. However, there are so many elements kind of squeezing the entire situation. One big component that is required and it's a must in majority of purchases, it's confidence. People want to be confident when purchasing and buying. So in this video, I just want to talk about the entire atmosphere, and we called it years ago in our previous videos. But some people tend to believe that there's this market, or I would say there are people in line just waiting for the right time to buy the property, which nothing is wrong with that. But the lineup in their mind seems to be growing exponentially, and that at one point, these buyers, these high income buyers, will enter the market and we will somehow achieve that boom market overnight. Well, I'm here to tell you from my perspective that there's probably next to none chance of something like that happening, because if that was true, it would have happened already, because the market kept declining for years now, and these high income or high valued buyers, or the fence buyers, or the buyers on the sidelines, or you can call them whatever you want to call them, are not there. That's it. They're not there, and nobody's lining up to buy pre-construction product, new products that barely exist nowadays. The economy is shaky, and what is the future holding? Well, mathematically, what we have experienced over the last, let's say, decade, and we went through a pandemic, we went through that uh, period of time, and people tend to compare that type of situation to today's gas prices and what is happening today. Because at one point they said, hey, look, the prices went up, and then we have seen this, and then all the stimulants that happened, and from government of Canada and everywhere else and whatnot. And the question here that I have for you guys, is the same thing going to happen this time around? I mean, the prices went up by 20, 30, 40%, depends where you get your gas from, or which gas station, and the location in Toronto GTA or Southern Ontario. But that gas price will impact the entire economy, right? And people say, well, it might and it might not. And over the years, what has developed, even a high earner, like, six-figure earner, $100,000, $200,000, right? Even they're suffering because it's taking their net from the table. It takes them, more money to fill up their cars. People that have moved outside the city, it takes them a lot longer to get to work, because everybody has to get to their offices nowadays. But it costing them more. So automatically, real estate prices will be affected in the outskirts, right? And then internally within the city, there's that scarcity. The confidence is gone. People are not as comfortable. They're debating, they're talking about that more. They're trying to plan it and angle their salaries in different ways, and all of that stuff. So I feel that this market, the spring market, a big flop for sure, right? I called it years ago. 2026 is around the corner. It's here. Spring market is around the corner. Now we will see the influx of listings flood the market. And yes, there will be some buyers that, are looking for years. Maybe they have to make a move due to employment or relocation or whatnot. But it will not be as fruitful or as rosy as some people might predict. So therefore, we get into that conflict when listing the owners, the current sellers, right, believe that they have a gold mine. They believe their property is the best one on the street, on the block, in the community, and they're not willing to reduce because they will lose money. And then we have the buyers that have so much to choose from, and they're not pushed into the market nowadays, and they're making these types of purchases in a more calculative manner, way, style. The negotiation style changed. And recently I heard so many different comments from sellers and buyers. But sellers are, they tell me like, hey, look, all these buyers, they're horrible. What are they thinking? Why so many low blow offers? What is going on? Like, this is ridiculous. Like, they have no shame, and all these bad words that they're using. And I asked them the same thing. Well, okay, so you sell, you will be a potential buyer tomorrow. How will you behave? And then that conversation stops because they understand the market. They're just not willing to adopt to the price reductions and changes, and they're not willing to accept it. Now, when we get to the exceptions, therefore, we see the market compounding over the years. And we have sellers that listed in 2023 and, high interest rate period and no good. So 2024, the slower market period, no good. 2025, while we'll see, 2026 has got a hit. Like, it's like they're sitting in a casino, right? And they're just pulling the lever. So it just feels like that they're losing the steam. Some people had to sell. They took their losses and they moved on. But some people are holding on for that magic number, which I believe is not going to happen. Getting back to the gas prices. Gas prices will not only impact how people feel and believe, it will definitely impact the purchase power. It will definitely impact the grocery bill. It will definitely impact the transportation bill. It will impact the entire economy. And as we know so far, Canadian GDP has been last on the table, right? Like we're holding that last place for a long time. And therefore, it is mind-boggling how we have that real estate sector boom. And I'm sure over the years you have heard it yourself, and I've heard it myself, and it was always the same idea. Canadian real estate is bulletproof. It will be protected. It will be safe, and they will not let it crash. And the question is, why not? I mean, fine. It's been good for a decade, 2 decades, 3 decades. But why do you believe that the market cannot be softened, crashed, or just let go and let it fall naturally where it needs to fall? So I hope you gained some value out of this. Please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.